Welcome back to another episode of Cowboys Culture Podcast. This is episode 10. Double digits, baby. Episode 10. Today we're going to talk about some interesting stuff, so stay tuned. We're going to talk about the upcoming Jets game this weekend. We're filming this on Friday. Thursday, sorry. Let's get into our sponsor, and then we'll get right into the video.
Yeah, so thanks again to 360 Roofing and Restoration. 360 Roofing and Restoration is the #1 roofing company in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, boys. That's who you want for your roofing needs. Dallas-Fort Worth. So give Coy a shout, and you won't be sad you did if you have roofing needs. So anyway, so Jets this weekend. As you know, the culture will be there.
We will.
Again, thank you, 360 Roofing and Restoration, for ensuring that we're at the game this weekend. Looking forward to it. So this game, guys, is taken a little bit of a turn since Monday Night Football, right?
It has.
Yep. So this was going to be a huge game in Dallas. Some people were even saying this was going to be a Super Bowl preview. But we all know better than that, right? Because the Jets can't go to the Super Bowl.
Right.
And apparently neither can we. But anyway, what was going to be great about this is obviously Aaron Rodgers with the Jets coming to Dallas. The Jets, because Rodgers is there, literally because he's there, they're a favorite for the AFC Championship game, and people are even talking Super Bowl. So Aaron Rodgers goes down 4 snaps into the season, season-ending Achilles injury on Monday Night Football. That stinks, man. That was going to be really fun to see what he could do against the Dallas defense we watched on Sunday Night Football the night before, and because it's good, it's real good.
It's legit.
But everybody's saying that New York Jets' defense is high caliber as well, and I think the eyeball test tells us they're good. So I think why don't we jump in there? Why don't we jump right in? I mean, Zach Wilson's going to be starting at quarterback. They obviously they have some decent receivers, but that offense is going to go as Zach Wilson goes, and unfortunately, Zach Wilson's probably going to be having to use his legs quite a bit. That's my prediction. He's going to be on the run quite a bit. I don't think he's going to have a lot of time to go through progressions, because our defense hates quarterbacks. So, what do you guys see happening here? I mean, defensively for New York, what do we have to be worried about?
Yeah. So, man, there's a lot there. I mean, so just kind of trying to break down, kind of scouting the Jets. Really, when you look at this team, it's a scary defense. Really, at all three, at all levels. I mean, you got obviously we know Quinnen Williams.
Yeah,
he's a beast in the middle.
Yeah.
Carl Lawson, they're saying, should be back for this game on the edge. So this is a good defensive line that does a good job of getting pressure. I mean, we have a small sample size, but you saw versus Josh Allen, he's not an easy dude to get down, and they were really making his life tough all night, and
really getting after him. On Monday Night Football.
Yeah. So it starts with the D line. They were able to get pressure with not really having to blitz very often. So that's kind of scary, especially because we know that Dak is a really good quarterback when it comes to playing against the blitz. Historically, he's been really good at that. But this is a team that's able to get some pressure without blitzing. So that's one thing to look at. But also,
the limited time we saw Dak on Sunday night against the New York Giants. When they got back there, he got on the move a couple times. Dak Prescott can still get around pretty good.
Yeah, and thankfully though, our O-line, he keeps him from really having to to do much to escape.
Sure, and Dak
pressure.
when he does leave when he does leave the pocket, Dak still runs with purpose, right? He doesn't run away.
Yeah.
He creates.
Yeah.
Which he doesn't. I don't think he's ever gotten enough credit for. And then, of course, since the catastrophic injury, what are we 3 years on from that now? But his running has been limited, and that's more of a play calling thing than him being worried about running.
Yeah.
But he still can create with his legs.
Another thing is the corners. But you want to talk a little bit about the secondary?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the secondary, obviously it revolves around Sauce and everything, and Sauce like the main focal point of that secondary. But I mean, they've got weapons at all aspects. They got DJ Reed. That Whitehead guy picked off Josh Allen, even though it's not like he was really doing anything. He just kind of walked into a heaved up deep ball from Josh Allen like twice, but. Anyway,
still got to catch it.
Yeah, I mean, their corners are good and everything, but in my being the homer that I'm on the side of it's not like anything that A, we didn't see last week, or B, we don't see every week in practice. Like we have solid corners that we go against. Our defensive coordinator is better than theirs. I don't think that in my opinion, whenever I think about this game, I think, how bad are we going to beat them? Not, are we going to beat them?
Do you think the likes of Solomon Thomas and those guys can get after Dak? I mean, or do you just think, as we sit here right now, and I think we might have jumped a little ahead earlier, but as we sit here right now, there is some injuries on our offensive line.
Oh yeah,
and, is there any concern that these guys are going to be able to get after the quarterback?
I mean, if Tyler doesn't play, we saw that last week. I'm not Chuma Adoga or whatever can come in. And he was serviceable, it was fine, especially with Tyron Smith playing as well as he does.
He didn't have to play for a very long time, but
but considering how well Tyron Smith played, I thought it was fine. Now, if you have Tyler Smith there, and both of them are there, you have nothing to worry about. That nothing is telling me that Carl Lawson, Bryce Huff, John Franklin Myers, their edge rusher guys, nothing is telling me that they're anything better than what the Giants had on edge rusher.
Yeah, hey, I don't want to, when it comes to Dak and a really, really good corner, like one of those top-tier corners, right? And maybe Sauce is – maybe there's that top tier, and maybe there's just that tier under the top tier corners in the league, and maybe Sauce is in there, and maybe he is top tier. The guy can play, is what I know. Corners like that, I have reason to be concerned that Dak doesn't fare extremely well against corners like that, so he ends up having to throw away from them all game. I mean, here's I guess what I'm getting to, and shut me down. That's fine. Is a side of the field very limited or off limits for him in this game?
I don't think so. I think it's on CD. If CD does what CD does, and there's no doubt in my mind that CD could just straight up torch Sauce Gardner, take him out of his cleats.
I couldn't agree more. I guess I'm more of the matchup between Sauce and Dak.
For example, look back at, if we're talking about elite corners, look back at Jair.
Yeah.
Jair is apparently one of the elite corners in the league. I don't think so. I think he's kind of annoying and he sucks. But CD, he's held in super high regard around the league as one of the best, if not the best, with Sauce up there in that same tier, whatever. CD put it on him, and Dak wasn't afraid at all. Dak threw to CD the whole game. CD had one of his best games. That game specifically. Dak was throwing all over the place. Didn't matter who it was at. I think that with time and with good receiver, especially considering, DJ Reed might be solid and all that, but hopefully we'll have Cooks. But if we've got Cooks out there, I don't see a world where they're slowing Dak down.
For sure.
But then the same thing's involved. Like, I think to have a productive defense in the NFL right now is you have to have two solid corners who are helping take time away from, this guy's open. Make multiple reads until go through your progressions until you throw, and then having that solid pass rush. But we saw last week that our O-line is fine. Obviously having Zach Martin and everything.
To do what you just said, you're going to have an offensive line that can give you the time for that.
And I think we do.
And, before we go any further, what is the situation injury-wise? Jacob, why don't you?
Yeah, we're kind of jumping ahead into our predictions there a little bit.
We're just so excited about football.
We're too excited.
Man.
Yeah.
But, so really what we wanted to do at first was just kind of summarize where we are as a team and kind of break down who they are as a team. And so seems like what we're talking about here so far is we know Jets as a football team, they have a good D-line for sure. Maybe not much better than the Giants, who also have a good D-line, but it's a pretty comparable, if not a slightly better D-line than the Giants, in my opinion. But a significantly better secondary, in my opinion, than the Giants. I don't think that
for sure,
the Giants' corners are nowhere near what the Jets have.
Yeah, they have a superstar in their secondary.
Depending on who you ask, the Jets have the best corner duo in the league, right? So this is definitely a test when it comes to defense, right? Another strength they have, and I'm just going through the Jets before we get into kind of our team, because that's gonna impact what we think about what's gonna happen here. But we saw the running game of the Jets. The Jets were able to run the ball really well with Breece Hall.
No.
I think he had 12.
Yeah.
I know their O-line isn't the great. It seems to me when you look at how they're playing, their O-line as a whole isn't the greatest when it comes to pass protection for sure. But when you look at what they were able to do running the ball, I think Breece Hall had 12 per carry. Now, he did have one big one, but even without that, he was still doing, I think it was around 5.
Yeah, I thought Breece Hall was going to take a step back.
They were running the ball well, which we know has been something.
He was banged up coming out of camp, too, wasn't he?
Yeah. So,
127
in terms
yards.
of what I see of them as strengths, that's what I see. I see a really strong defense overall. Kind of, in my opinion, the way I see their defense is kind of like a slightly, I guess, like a poor man's Dallas defense. Honestly, it's pretty stacked, but I don't see it as elite as ours. And then they're a good running team. I think
speaking of the running, Monday night, Breece went for over 100. Right?
That's what I'm saying.
Went for 127. If Breece Hall goes for over 127 in our game, we got to rethink our defensive line. I just don't see any planet where that takes place. However, we're it's a different ball game when it comes to Dallas. But if he were to run for 100 yards, if he were to rush for 100 yards, do we win?
Yeah.
I could very easily see him running for over 100 because that's all they got.
In the beginning, I think they'll start running. They're going to try and initiate that run game in the beginning, because that's pretty much the only thing. Getting into their weaknesses.
It's like the Giants. They were trying to establish it.
They are pretty much the Giants with. If you factor in Darren Waller, they're pretty much the Giants. One solid receiver. Walnut and then obviously Garrett Wilson, and then they got an insane run game, and then their D line's really good. The only thing that like we talked about, the Jets have that the Giants don't have is the secondary, which the Giants have good safeties, kind of. They got a rookie safety or whatever. So I don't think their cornerbacks are terrible, but obviously the Jets are better than they are. But in my opinion, even if they do run for 200 yards. I mean, the Bears ran for 200 yards against us last season, and we smacked them.
Yeah, so good enough. So what?
Micah Parsons had a rushing touchdown. So
right, yeah. So Jacob, what are we dealing with here then?
Yeah, so that kind of gets into, you know, when you're talking about what we think about, what are some scenarios that we could possibly, you know, lose. I think really for me, it comes down to, because when you take our teams, both of our teams on paper, I mean, I don't think it's, I don't think it's much of a contest. But you know, when you look at the fact that look at our injuries for this week and from past weeks that are kind of seem like they're piling up. We got Cooks that's hitting the injury report. They're saying he's got an MCL sprain. So, you know, they're not saying long-term multiple week injury, but they're saying, you know, he didn't practice today, right? So that's something to keep an eye on. Without him, that's something that really changed. I mean, we don't have another Brandon Cooks guy that can just. We don't have another guy that can fill in for Brandon Cooks. He is that guy.
Tolbert would just have to step up tremendously, but it's not the same.
But yeah, nobody has that unique skill set, and we don't have a veteran, speedy guy like that can truly just open up the defense like Cooks does. So I think that makes a big difference.
Because the talent level between Gallup and Tolbert is a long way. You know? And I was going to say another thing. In addition to that injury, we're seeing Tyler Smith is still not practicing. We're seeing Zach Martin is now added to the injury list. So now, and he was limited. That's a groin, right?
Yeah, it's a groin, and they're saying he's limited and it's not super severe. But the question here is, if we have both our left and right guard out for this game against this D line, and we have a guy like Brandon Cooks out, right? So we're already going to have a challenge to throw the ball against this kind of a secondary and this defensive line in general. Now you lose a dynamic weapon, and you possibly have the potential of losing not having two of your interior guys to really hold things down in the middle. So that, for me, is one of those things where I'm like, that us as a whole without injuries, I think we would dominate them. But when you take all that into account, I'm like, man, you know, that could on offense, I think that could really slow us down potentially.
So if you're thinking of scenarios where the Jets can beat the Cowboys, Sunday at 3:25 on CBS, that's a Romo Nance game. Oh, Jim. So if you're thinking of scenarios where they could win, can they win up front defensively? Can the Quinnen Williams of the world beat us without a Tyler Smith, without a Zach Martin? Is that where they could maybe break through? Could they put enough pressure on Dak to force throws and somehow keep the scoring low?
Yeah, but it would have to be, to me, it would have to be a mixture of two things. It would have to be their running game would have to be unbelievably good, and then that would have
also
to happen.
Get to Dak.
Yeah, but you would also have to keep into account that Cooks doesn't play, Tyler Smith doesn't play, and Zach Martin doesn't play. Like, if Zach and Tyler don't play, then that's when you get to a point where you're like, ooh, this could get rocky. But yeah, that's like worst case scenario. And, you know, Zach Martin was limited. He wasn't a non-participant. So.
Yeah. I mean, a groin for him is, it's kind of like we said earlier off the pod. A groin for him is not the same as a groin for, say,
like Cooks or something.
A receiver.
Well, so like my mindset about this all is this: when it comes to us versus the Jets, the biggest distinguishing factor really I see, or the two biggest ones, are quarterback and O-line. Those are two things. Like, our defenses, we both have good defenses. I think we're better, but I don't think it's like it's significant. You know, I think they're a strong defense. I think the difference.
I just don't think I don't think I was watching the same things. Like, when people say the Jets have a solid defense, I'm just not saying.
They just won against Josh Allen and
no,
the
but
Bills with no
but
quarterback.
when people say, "Did you win or did they lose?" I definitely think it was a Bills, like Josh Allen literally threw that game away.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't make 4 turnovers like that and expect to win the game.
Yeah,
like that's huge.
So kind of like I said earlier, like it's like, did Whitehead really have an interception? It's like, well, he had to catch it.
I mean, he had the interception, but like if you watch them, if you're actually being straight and you're being logical and everything, you can tell that those aren't like, like it was a good placed pass. He just stole it out of the air.
Yeah.
I think it was one of those. I know it's one of those things where he chucked it up there, and Whitehead, being a safety in the NFL, is like, easy money. Like it's coming right at me. It's right here.
Right place, right time, right? And I think the same could be said for us when Diggs knocks a ball up in the air and stuff. Exactly. Right place, right time. So I mean,
the bottom line is they held the Bills.
Well, just to say that this is a. It's more the Bills losing than the Jets winning. So defense, I think, is a mistake.
Yeah,
I think it's a mistake.
Even outside of those turnovers, they held the Bills from really being able to do anything on offense. Right? You come into an overtime, Josh Allen gets the ball first, and you straight up stop him. That's it. In my opinion, that shows a lot for a defense. But what I was saying is that I feel like when it comes to the why, what are some potential reasons for concern for us? I think if you look at our team, I think the biggest distinguishing factors are, like I said, the quarterback and the O-line. I think those are clear advantages that we have over them. But if we have half of our O-line injured, I think that kind of takes away. I think that's going to make it hard. That takes away one of our advantages. I feel like it's going to make it hard for us to run the ball.
I mean,
it's going to make it hard for us Dak to have time to throw the ball. In which case, that's why I'm saying this is one of my reasons for could we possibly lose this game if we have a worst case scenario. Cooks, both of our guards don't play. That would be in that case I see it as like a Bills versus Jets where it's a low-scoring game, and whoever gets the crazy run-back touchdown, it might be the winner.
Because you're asking a lot out of Pollard if those guards don't play.
Yeah, I agree. I just think that, for example, that is worst-case scenario, and you're right. But I think that that same defense against an O-line that the Bills O-line, which isn't as good as ours, fully healthy, or even what we had on Sunday. Like their O-line, like they took our scraps, like Connor McGovern plays for them, and we got rid of him. I think that they lose that game if Josh Allen doesn't throw 4 interceptions. I mean, they went to overtime. Like for example, how many turnovers were in our game? I think it was like 3 or 4.
Yeah, we possessed 3 turnovers.
Yeah, 3 turnovers. We beat them 40-0. The Jets got 4 turnovers and they squeaked one out in overtime.
Yeah,
And I don't project us making those many mistakes.
But yeah, and I think the only thing to kind of take a breath on is like, hey, the Jets don't win if Josh Allen doesn't throw 4 interceptions, but Josh Allen threw 4 interceptions, and their defense did play well, and they did. It was a low-scoring game, and that defense did get it to overtime. I don't think Josh Allen got it to overtime via playing defense for New York. I think they are.
He definitely played defense for New York.
I understand, but I'm saying, I guess my point is I don't think this is a defense that you just downright disrespect.
Yeah, especially with if you are missing both of your guards, it's going like as much as we love our team and our offense is good. If you're missing both of your guards and you're missing Brandon Cooks, it's going to be one of those low-scoring games, in my opinion, because I feel like it'd be hard to run without those guys against that D line, and it's going to be hard to pass.
Yeah, I'm trying not to be super homerish, but I can't help it.
Right.
There's we played with less O-line continuity and scrambling an O-line last season, and we blew people out the whole season. You know, we beat the Vikings 40-3. We beat we put 50 on the Bears. We put 50 on or close to 50 on the Colts. I mean, we blew people out. Teams that the Colts have a solid defense, especially then they had what's their name? Or they had Stephon Gilmore. They have DeForest Buckner.
Would you agree that the Jets' defense is better than last year's Indy defense?
Sure, but I'm saying like I'm not gonna sit here and act like, oh man, the Jets' defense, man. I mean, Quinnen Williams is good, but I mean, it's not like he's anything like incredibly special, especially compared to what we've already played, like Dexter Lawrence.
Well,
I don't think anyone fears their defense. I think all that really is being said is that our offensive line depth, having to absorb a defense like that, could make for a long afternoon.
Yeah,
so
I mean, I agree.
We're just talking about if we did
lose,
if there was going to be a
loss,
loss, it would have to be we have some seriously bad injury luck, and because their defense is solid, that neutralizes some of our advantages, which is like I was talking about was a big one is the O-line. If we are going to lose, that's the only way I see it is because these injuries start to pile up. But it seems like we have a hard time talking about why we could lose because none of us think we're going to lose. So why don't we shift to why we think we could win?
I'll tell you. Can I start?
Yeah.
Oh, here, I'll be quick if you want me to just say this.
Go ahead.
I think we win defensively again. I think we get after a not very good quarterback. I'm sorry. I know that guy's a first-round pick and everything, but he's proven that they need a 39-year-old to take his place, and that's not going to work out, so it's going to be him again, and I think we're going to get after him all day long, and I think who knows if the defense scores Sunday, but that is how we're going to win. We're going to keep their numbers off the board, and it's going to give us opportunities to put numbers on the board. So that's how I feel like we're going to win.
You want me to go? Yeah. I think that it's going to be a game that's very closely related to the one that we just watched last week. I think that they're going to put just a beat down quick and early like what J-Ron did, set the tone for the rest of the game. I think they're going to try and run, and what's going to happen is they're going to get shut down very, very, very early, and they're going to put the hurt on Brees and everything because that O-line is just struggling. I think you see a spike in Mozzie this week. I think Hankins just dominates, like our interior D-line just dominates. And then the same thing's going to happen. Once we show that we can shut down that run game and that we've evolved in that run game, run defense, it's Zach Wilson's a dead man. And it's open season and Zach Martin's a gazelle and we have the lion, And so I think he throws at least 2 interceptions. And I think it leaves us with short field, and that's how we get a number of our big plays.
All right. Jake, how are we going to win?
Well, yeah, I think ultimately in this game, because like we've been talking about, it's both good defenses. On offense, we both have good weapons. They got a good receiver. I think we have better ones, but I think it's both good weapons. I think our O-line is significantly better than theirs unless it's injured. But ultimately, though, I think the biggest distinguishing factor, like I said earlier, was the quarterbacks. I think Dak is significantly better than Zach Wilson. And if it's a game with 2 solid defenses, I trust Dak a lot more in this game. And anybody who doesn't is an idiot. Anybody who doesn't.
There's some idiots out there, Jake.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of them, especially on TV. But anybody who doesn't. Anybody who doesn't trust Dak significantly more to navigate through a tough defense than Zach Wilson is just, they just don't like Dak. They're just a hater on Dak. But I think that's the distinguishing factor there. I think that's what's going to cause us to be able to score, to outscore them, even as good as their defense might be. And the things when it comes to how big of a win. I think it's going to come down to a couple of things because when you look at, we've already kind of talked about our injuries, right, and our O-line. however many of those dudes are out, whether it's both Zach and Tyler, or if it's just one or the other, or if we got both of them, I think that makes a difference there because I think that'll impact our run ability. Whether or not Cooks is there, I think that impacts some things. But here's another thing. We talked a lot about, and this is something we haven't talked about yet. We talked a lot about our injuries, but we talked about how some of their strengths, such as their run game with Breece Hall. But if y'all look at the injury report, Breece Hall is questionable. He was limited. You know who else was limited? Their starting left and right tackle.
Okay.
So when you add that into the mix, maybe they're missing one or two of those dudes. I don't know. Right?
Look, I mean, it's open season.
So
Zach Wilson's a dead man. They're trying to go up against our D-line and have Breece Hall run through gaps on our D-line, it's a very, very tall task. So if you can't put up points, I seriously doubt that they're going to keep us from putting up points offensively.
And in the way of putting up points, I realize Breece played the whole game last week, but if he doesn't play for some reason, Dalvin Cook going to need more than 26 yards on the ground. That's what he had Monday night. Alan Lazard going to need more than 46 yards receiving. That's what he had Monday night. Garrett Wilson going to need more than 34 yards receiving. That's what he had Monday night.
Garrett Wilson will be locked up the whole game.
Yeah, I mean, his side of the field is not
You're not throwing that way.
Zach Wilson has no business throwing at Diggs or Gilmore for that matter, Alan Lazard. But so yeah, I mean they need Breece Hall to play. They need to establish him.
Yeah,
and that again is an extremely tall task. If Saquon can't get going, Breece is not Saquon. Not at this point in his career. He's good,
and they have a worse O-line than the Giants do, which is why I think even if we have a worst-case scenario and injuries, I think we could still win. But like I was saying, I think it'll make the win less of a, maybe less of a statement win than we saw versus the Giants. But with that being said, let's go ahead and do predictions. What do you guys think? If you had to predict the score and how that game's going to unfold, what would you say?
Yeah, so I think the Dallas Cowboys, get all the way to week 2 to where we finally give up some points. I don't see us having to light up the scoreboard, even though the offense last week put up 27 points that it didn't need.
Mm-hmm.
But I can see us scoring that again. I could see us getting around 27-28. Let's say my prediction is 28-10.
Yeah, I mean, that's reasonable.
Sorry, New York, again.
I would say that they might score a touchdown. I'll give them maybe 7 points, around 7 to 10, because they may get a field goal. I don't anticipate them getting.
No.
I mean, again, this offense is like playing a worse version of New York of the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have the same team, just a far worse quarterback.
It's a bad offensive line. I mean, we saw it Monday.
And an even worse offensive line.
Yeah.
And they're banged up. Gosh, I mean, I can't. It's hard for me to say that a 40-0 performance can happen back-to-back weeks, but it's hard for me to say after seeing that against this team that's even worse, or like when we play the Cardinals next week, that it isn't going to happen again and again.
They're going to score. All right.
Okay, like I said, worst case scenario, they're going to get 10 points from me.
Yeah, I agree. That's
now. What I think is going to happen is Dak and Mike heard the chirping, and they're going to come out swinging early and often, and you're like it's going to be like beating a dead horse, in my opinion. If obviously, if our guards and everything are solid, I feel like Dak and Mike are going to be like, yeah, we're throwing it. We're playing offense and we're putting up points on the board. And then obviously, I think that our defense is going to at least score one defensive touchdown. So
yeah,
I'm thinking 35.
35 to 7 to 10.
Yeah,
35-10.
All right. Well, I think I think it'll be a good win by a good margin. I'm going to go ahead. I feel like I'm the more conservative one. I think that I'm going to give that defense more respect. I think that our defense is going to hold them under 10 or less points. For sure, I agree with Ethan on that. I'm not going to go 35 for us, though, because I do think, especially if they have if we have some of those injuries that we talked about, I think their defense will be tough to score on if we're missing those dudes. So I'm going to go ahead and give my range of, first off, I think they score 10 or less. I think we score, I would say, worst case scenario, 21 to 28 points for us.
I said 28-10. So
yeah,
I would think we're right on par.
So the only reason I'm up to 35 is because I think that A, we're coming out with an offensive vengeance, and B, because I know that our defense will score at least once.
Well, I agree. I just think that it seems like Mike and me and Steven were talking about this the other day. I think that our new philosophy is less of Kellen Moore, let's play offense to score points, more of let's play offense to win games. And so for that reason, I feel like
because of how dominant our defense is?
Because of the fact that they're probably only going to score 7 to 10 points, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
We'll probably do what we did versus New York. Methodically take the ball down the field and either get a touchdown or a field goal. And, we might be scoring in the 20s, but we're going to win. We're going to keep possession. We're going to slow the game down and run the clock down and come out with a decent victory without giving them many opportunities to, for like the Bills lost because they threw so many. He took so many risks.
Yeah, I
agree.
I don't want to pretend like this is just because Rodgers is gone. I don't want to pretend like this is the Jets of Jets past.
Yeah.
But this team, especially without the Hall of Fame quarterback, I think and our defense. This really is not going to be some all day affair. This is obviously not going to be some shootout or anything. This is going to be a Cowboys domination. It just depends on at what point they decide to put their foot down, and then what time they, what part of the game they decide to lift their foot off the gas and get the I was going to say get the ginger out there, but get Cooper Rush back out there and all those boys and let them have some practice time. But anyway, let's wrap it up. Everyone say a prayer for Zach Wilson because his time is ticking. His day has come.
Yeah, that's going to be rough for him. But let's wrap up. Make sure you guys are liking and subscribing to the channel. Make sure you're following us on Instagram to stay updated with everything that we do. We've been kind of switching up the format of our posts, so we're doing shorter videos. So that you don't have to sit through an hour-long video. You can listen to what you want to listen to, kind of segmenting it up. But if you see us at the game this weekend, say what's up. Let's get to know each other. We love the culture. We love you guys supporting us. And go Cowboys.
Yeah. See you guys.